Hey everyone, how are we doing? Oh, no worries. Yeah, we were working in 474. We had an activity today, so sorry for the delay right there. We were doing 474 activity, and then I went and grabbed some more coffee. Woo! Got some coffee. Came back. Good to see everyone here. Good to see you here, Shelby. Good to see you here, Shreya. How's everyone doing today? It's just getting started right now. I need some more energy music. I need some more energy. There we go. That's some energy music right there. We got Stat Tool 1 test coming out tomorrow. What should we do? Here's everything we were doing in 474. Take a look at this. You ready? Woo! We're doing all this coding right here. All this coding we were just doing moments ago. Writing all this code. What should we do? Look at all the output. We got Mubot waking up. What should we do? If you're here, ask the questions. We've been coding away all day today. Ask the questions. We'll drop 1,000 points in the chat. Tomorrow is test day. Sounds like a yay. What's up, Colin? Good to see you. 1,000 points for Colin up here in Chapter 6 quiz. Yeah, let's do it. Which ones should we do on Chapter 6 quiz? Let's do tonight, isn't it? Logging into Chapter 6 quiz right now. We're getting it going. Remember, the quizzes are the best way to practice. Most roller coasters get their speed by dropping down a steep incline, so it makes sense that the height of the drop might be related to the speed of the roller coaster. Here's the scatter plot. Let's go check that out. Awesome stuff. We've got the height of a roller coaster and the speed at which it's going. Chapter 6 quiz coming up. Is it going to load? I'm waiting for it to load. Load! Assignments, where are you? Here it is, loaded in. Chapter 6 quiz, replace questions. Most roller coasters. There's like 29 questions here. 29. The errors in prediction hurricanes. Most people live in the Gulf Coast. We could check that out next. We got the roller coaster one. Let's do the roller coasters. We'll see which one we get first. The errors are most roller coasters. Here we go. I'm going through the questions right now as we speak. The errors. No math at all. Here we go. We'll see which one we get first. We'll do both these questions. Brain size. Kentucky Derby. Several scatter plots. Most roller coasters. The errors. We're getting close. 29 questions. We will find it. Adirondacks. Love the Adirondack Mountain. Medical research. Most roller coasters. Okay, we're starting off with most roller coasters. Shelby will do the next one next. This one's a short one too, it looks like. So we got some short questions right here. Let's check it out. Okay. 403. Stat 201. Chapter 6 quiz. Most roller coasters. Here we go. Okay. So what do you notice right here? First thing, just look at the graphic and tell me what you see. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we're going to get that 100, Shelby. Drop all the questions you're working on. Thank you so much, Shelby. That's really, I love the positivity. Brings me a lot of energy when people say stuff like that. What do you notice about this graphic right here up top? Like, before we even do anything about the question, what do you notice about the drop and the speed? What do you notice about this? Like, what do you notice? Linear positive, Shelby. Boom, you're getting it right there. Exactly. There's a positive linear relationship. Those are mild outliers. Like, that's nothing big. Like, this passes some QQ straight enough. No outliers. Q, two quantitative variables. Straight enough. A straight line goes through it. No real outliers. Like, if we're putting an outlier, we're going to put something obvious on the test, like down here. They're just a little further away. Just those little bits away. So I think this is going to be a pretty good one. I'm going to get mad if it's not. Does the scatter plot indicate that it is appropriate to calculate correlation? So when it's appropriate, we want to do QQ, two quantitative variables, straight enough relationship, and no outliers. So I would say yes, it shows a linear relationship with no outliers. And when we look at it, Sarah, great to see you here. We're going to say there's no real outliers, like no big outliers there. Like, once again, on the test, we throw something down there or far away. Those are just little tiny things. Like, there's always going to be a little bit of weirdness. Just a little bit. Nothing too crazy, though. In fact, the correlation is 0.9. That indicates a positive, strong linear correlation, or at least we can see it's linear. This is strong and positive. I think that's got it. I think that'll do it. Boom. Strong and positive is all I need to see right there because it's definitely not weak, and it is positive because it goes up. Also, this tells you the direction being positive right there. So great question right there, Jackson. Does that make sense? It's asking about the conditions of quantitative variables, straight enough relationship, and there aren't any real outliers. Once again, we're going to throw things further away that are more obvious outliers. There's a lot of good questions like the Adirondacks question that shows you bigger errors. So human error on predicting hurricanes next. What's the difference between the time plot and a scatter plot? Time plot has on the x-axis, really quickly, I'll show you this right here. If you do a time plot, so let me show you a time plot. A time plot is going to have down here on the x-axis. So if we go to auto plot, os arrivals, this is a time plot right here because down on the x-axis is quarter, and we have the arrival, and it's actually a multi-series time plot with each origin. But does that make sense right here, Shelby? That this is a time plot right here because on the bottom axis is a time variable. You could show these as dots also, but they're just connecting the dots with lines. And so you can see the arrivals. This is what I love about doing code because we could go right here and we could go to, I'm just going to go really quick, and go to filter and go to origin equals Japan. That should only get the Japanese origins. And then we go right here and we say auto plot. And now we should only be looking at the Japanese arrivals. Or I messed it up. Oh, I have Japan. There we go. So there's the arrivals just for Japan. And exactly, we love some FPV3. So this is a time plot right here. It's connecting the dots with lines. But because there's time on the x-axis, that makes it a time plot. Good question right there, Shelby. And Shreya knows all about some FPV3. You're welcome, Jackson. So keep asking those questions. Time plots are just scatter plots where on the x-axis there's time. So time plots are scatter plots. But not all scatter plots are time plots, because to be a time plot on the x-axis you would need time. So that's not a time plot, that's a scatter plot. Does that make sense? Not all scatter plots are time plots. All time plots are scatter plots, because time plots are just scatter plots with time on the x-axis. But not all scatter plots are time plots. The next one right here, let's see if we can find it. What is it? Whoops, Shelby said the errors. We got to find the errors. The errors. Keep asking those questions. The error. Thank you so much, Shelby. The errors. There it is. The errors. And let's take a note in the notes for people to come back and check this out and learn the theory behind this. Stat 201, Chapter 6. Quiz. The errors. Oh, that says also rivals. The errors. There we go. Easy one. Just don't want to miss it. Yeah, of course. The errors in predicting human tracks are given in nautical miles. Hurricane tracks. A statutory mile is 0.86898 nautical miles. Statutory, I don't even know. Most people living on the Gulf Coast in the United States would prefer to know the prediction errors in whatever those things are, rather than nautical miles. Okay, so they're converting units is the idea. Explain why converting the errors to miles would not change the correlation between prediction errors in the year. So the main thing to know right here is when we do correlation is based on what? I'm going to bring up the notes right here to show it. Correlation is based on what's? Correlation is always based on what's? Calculating correlations is always based on what's? Calculating correlations is always based on what's? Well, the correlation shows the strength between two variables, and correlation, you can calculate it using what's. Correlation, when you look at the strength between two, like an X and a Y, and their linear strength or nonlinear, well, can't look at nonlinear, but what relationship they have, when we calculate correlation, it's done unitless because z-scores are unitless. Does that make sense here, Shelby? Correlation is a unitless measure. So when we talk about changing it from, like, let's say we look at height and weight. So we have a variable right here. This is the same sort of thing they're asking. So we can see like height and weight. Would you agree that in some sense height and weight are correlated? Not that if you know somebody is like 6 feet tall, they must weigh this. But if someone's 6 feet tall, they probably weigh more. So what if we were to measure their height in terms of meters? Would the relationship change between height and people weighing more if we were to change height instead of being in feet to height in meters? Would that change the no, it wouldn't, because it still is the same relationship between the two variables. So what they're getting at right here is, what if we change the way we measure the mile to now mean this length of mileage or whatever? So it's not going to change anything. It's still the same data. There's still the same relationship between height and weight, because when you're looking at height and weight, it doesn't matter the way you measure them, because you're going to turn them into z-scores anyway. Awesome, Allie. So good to see you here. Drop those questions in the chat, whatever you're working on. We're working on this one right here. So the correlation will not change. Well, that's all the right answers. So because the sample size, no. The correlation will not change. It is based on the standard deviation of the two variables. Kind of. The correlation will not change because it treats x and y symmetrically. The correlation of x and y is the same as... Oh, no, that would be switching. They're asking if you look at the relationship of x and y versus y and x. That is true, but they're not talking about switching the x's and the y's. So this one's wrong. This one's wrong. Sample size, I don't even see. This is just theoretically wrong. This is theoretically correct if they said, what if you looked at height and weight versus weight and height? Does that make sense? So if you looked at height and weight versus weight and height, that answer would be correct if you say if you switch them. It doesn't matter. But that's not what they're talking about here. The correlation would, boom, boom, right there, right there. The correlation would not change because it's based on the standardized values z-scores. The z-scores of the prediction errors are the same regardless of the units, right there. And that's exactly what we were getting at. So that's the theory right here, that the correlation is based on z-scores. Mortgage interest rate, we could do that one here next. You got it. And then Jackson's got another one. Great job. Mortgage and interest rate. How does it start? Why not B? Let me look at B again, because B was the only one I considered that it could be. B was the only one. Let me look at it. Okay, the correlation will not change because it's based on the standard deviation of the two variables. That's kind of true. Like, in some sense, yes. Because you've got up here the standard deviations right here. It can be calculated that way. And let me look at what it says. The standard deviation of the prediction error is the same regardless of the units. I'm trying to think theoretically why it's wrong. It's just not good enough. Like, I know correlation can be based on z-scores because correlation's unitless. I'm trying to think theoretically why it's wrong. It's maybe just not a good answer. It's a good question. Would you give us a question with two right answers? No. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't give you two right answers. If this question, it should say maybe select the best answers. I'm trying to think, because based on the, let me think again. Correlation is based on the standard deviation of the two variables. Kind of. I mean, yes, it is, but it turned into z-scores. The standard deviation of the prediction error is the same regardless of the units. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. The standard deviation of the prediction error is the same regardless of the units, because imagine if I were to measure somebody in miles, the standard deviation of the errors would be water. If I were to measure someone in miles, just think about this. Now, I know miles is a big thing, but think about your and my differences in miles. That last part is wrong for the question. So it'd be smaller, exactly. Like I might be 0.002 miles tall, and you might be 0.00198 miles tall. So there would be smaller standard differences. So that last part is just theoretically wrong right there. Like the first part, I'm just like not even with at the start. I was like, I don't know. But the standard deviation of the prediction errors would not be the same regardless of the units, because it's all going to become unitless anyways. But we would have different standard deviations of prediction errors for people's heights of models if you measure people in miles. Yeah, the standard deviation has changed numerically, but the z-scores wouldn't. Exactly, Ali, just rock star right there. That's exactly it, Ali. So great job. The z-scores stay the same. And so remember it's saying like it would not change, like the correlation would not change. Well, the standard deviations would change. But when we standardize them into z-scores, then it doesn't change. And Sarah's got since 1985 mortgage rates. Nice job. Yeah, really. And thank you. I got to throw another 1,000 points. Thank you for, it's not about just getting the right answers. It's about understanding why it's the right answers, and the z-scores don't change. So correlation's unitless. If you measure people in height, in their height in inches, in feet, in miles, it'll have the same correlation with weight because it's the same variables. It doesn't matter how we measure them. The variables have the same bivariate relationship regardless of units, because z-scores take into account that it's unitless when we do correlation. So it's the understanding of these questions, and that's a good theoretical concept right there. Let's go grab Sarah's question. Thank you so much, Sarah. And I really appreciate, like, Everyone, if you're just doing the work, I appreciate that. But when people are like, oh, but why? That's the really good questions. Like, wait, why is that the answer? We got to know it. We got to understand it because we don't know what the test is going to ask. Yeah, we don't know what the test might. Who knows? But if you know that correlation is unit based on z-scores, that's going to be a big help right there. You're welcome, Sarah. Since 1985, we got it right here. 1985, the year I was born. I'm old. I'm kidding. Since 1985, average mortgage interest rates have fluctuated from a low of nearly 3% to a high of 14%. Is there a relationship between the amount? Okay, so we're going to look at the graph. Boop. Ooh, what do you notice about this? Ooh. What do you notice about this? Ooh. What do you notice immediately? What do you notice? What do you notice about that? No, not a fan of this one. You get that reference, you're old like me. It's negatively related. It has a negative relationship, but there's also a lot of what going on right here. I mean, another thing I'm noticing too about this is a lot of what. Two things have to be quantitative, correct? And Ali sees it right there. It is decently strong, actually. And great job, everyone following along right here. It is decently strong, but it's got some sort of non-linear thing going on. I would say it's got decent strength, moderate to strong. It's non-linear. It doesn't really have outliers much. Its strength is probably weaker. Like if you draw a line through here, the linear strength is not going to pick up on it as well because the line might be something like that. So it's not going to be well described by a line. Moderately strong, non-linear, no big outliers exactly because it follows the form, but it's some sort of non-linear form. So that's what they're going to be getting at right here probably in the question. So let's take a look. 2 hours later, yes. So describe the relationship. It is definitely negative. It's definitely negative. That goes down. And it is curved. Formless. That just means like, well, it's a weird way of saying it doesn't really have a relationship. That formless would be like a blob. That's why I think they're getting it there. So it's negative, it's curved, and it's strong. Remember, strength, once again, is how tight it is around the form. So my yellow bands right here dictate the strength. It doesn't have linear strength because it's not tight around the line. Like if you were to look at the linear strength of this, the linear strength, I'm trying to get to my highlighter. There we go. The linear strength of this would be really bad. It doesn't have really good linear strength because how tight is it around the line? It's not around the line very well, but it's tighter around its curved form. So I would say it's strong around its curved form. It is negative. If both variables were standardized, if they were turned into z-scores, what would the correlation be? So don't even worry about what it is. Talk theoretically to me. If both variables are standardized, what would the correlation be? It would be the what? If you were to turn them into z-scores, that's what standardized means. If you were to turn them into z-scores, the correlation would be what? Don't worry about a numeric value. It wouldn't be 0. Good answer right there, Sarah. It wouldn't be 0. It would be the what? Here, let's ask the Rock. If I turn it into z-scores, what happens, Rock?
It doesn't matter.
What's the Rock trying to tell us there to say if you turn it into z-scores, what happens? The correlation will be the what? The correlation between the two would be the what? If you turn it into z-scores, the correlation between the two will be exactly the what? It's already standardized anyways, right? That's when you calculate it, it's standardized. So if you turn it into z-scores before doing it, you'll do it same thing. Does that make sense? It'll be the same. Great job, Douglas, right there. So it's going to stay the same because correlation is standardized. So if you were to standardize your variables and then correlate them, the units don't matter. And that's what we were talking about with height and weight previously, that it doesn't matter how you measure height and weight. If you do height in miles or height in inches, it's still going to be correlated with weight the same way because it's the bivariate relationship, and it matters about the z-scores, and the z-scores don't have units. So when it says if we standardize the variables, what would the correlation be? It's not going to change. Good question right there. Those are the ones I love. That's really good theoretical stuff. If Morgan alone were measured in billions of dollars instead of trillions, how would this impact the correlation? So what would it do to it? If we were to measure in billions instead of trillions, what would it do to it? Don't even look at their answers. Don't even look at their answers yet. If correlation were to be measured in billions or trillions or whatever's, what would happen to the correlation? They'd be like, oh, let's change the way we measure this. Like change measuring height to inches or feet. It goes back to this again right here. It wouldn't change. The correlation, it's it's the same. It's the bivariate relationship. So the way you measure it's not going to change the relationship the variables have. Does that make sense when I say that? Like the way you measure these things, like if you're like Brian is this many inches tall or Brian is this many miles tall, that doesn't change the relationship I would have with another variable. So the way you measure the variables does not change their relationship to each other. We're just measuring it some way, and then yeah. So it would not change. The correlation would not change since the correlation. Let's look. The correlation would not change since the correlation is not affected by the changes in. Are these not the same answers? Oh, the changes in. Okay. Scale. Okay. That's changing the scale. It's also going to change the center. It's changing both of those, but they're multiplying rather. When they're talking about changing the center right there, they're talking about adding a constant, which would not impact it either. Questions like if we add +5 to the hurricanes, you'll see a lot of those. If you add +5 to correlation to all the things, that would change the center. If you times everything by like 100, that would change the scale of it. It does technically change the center too. But they're talking about turning this into like millions or billions or trillions, which is going to change the scale of the variable, put it over a wider scale. So that is going to impact the scale more so than the center. It does technically still impact the center, my Pearson. Suppose the next year interest rates are 11% and totaled 70 trillion. How would including that year with these datas affect the correlation? So we need to mark this in the plot to see what's going to happen right here. We have 11% and 70 trillion. Okay, so let's mark it in our plot. We're going to redraw 11% and 70 trillion. In trillions, okay. 11% and what was the trillions? And 7 trillion? Was it right there? Let's see it again. Make sure I get the right thing. 70 trillion. And that's, oh, is that way far away? Because that's in, let me see their data again. Mortgage loan amount in trillions of dollars. So are they really doing something this far off the plot? Are they really... Yeah, I think they are going that far off. 70 trillion. Okay, so they're going way off their plot. They don't even want you to be able to see it. So does this make sense here? They're saying there's a point up here at 70 trillion and has 11% interest rate. Even if we were to, it'd be a little more confusing if we put it right there. But they're going up there way off the plot. So take a look at this. What is that going to do to the correlation? That's way off the plot. I'd prefer they say something like up here. I think that's a better way to phrase it. I wish they'd put something over here. That's going to be pretty obvious. It's a huge outlier. It's massively destroying this. Previously, this had a correlation equal to negative 0.86. Even though it's non-linear, it's still picking up some sort of linear, like there's some linear strength, but it's not really well described by a linear relationship. It could make it positive. Yeah, and as far up as they're putting it, they might be going for that. Like they're going way off the scale. Like they're going so far up here that it might even do something like that. It might pull it in that direction. The correlation, see, it's very negative to begin with. The correlation would become smaller because the data point for next year is an outlier. Yeah, I mean, that's changes. No, we're going to say it's an outlier right here. That makes more sense because there's a relationship going on. It could technically change it to positive, but it's definitely an outlier, which makes the relationship weaker. That is in line right here with what we would think. The correlation would become smaller because the data point for next year is an outlier, which makes the relationship weaker. So I think they're going more for, like, I'd love to draw this out. I think they're going more for that right there, where the original relationship is this. And so this is your original. And this is the new one, and it's much weaker. And the new one might have something like R equal to 0.1 or something. It might become a little positive. Probably would. You go far enough away, outliers can do anything. So they're really going for that being an outlier right there. Watch me be wrong. Do these data provide proof? When you hear proof, what's your answer immediately? 2-letter word in the chat. If you hear proof, what do you do immediately if you hear proof? Do these data provide proof? Because correlation is not this. Wrong. It's like the old Superman, like, Superman will come and save us. Wrong. It's old memes. Correlation is not causation. No, because correlation never proves causation. That sounds right to me. No, because the correlation is not high enough. No. It can't ever be high enough. We should get everything right. Cross your fingers. Not today, Ma Pearson. Not today. We love that right there. Good question. I really liked this question. If it told me I was wrong on something, I'd be mad. But overall, this was a great question. Like going through the theoretical ideas, understanding like this is a lot of the whole chapter, because really it starts off with something that is non-linearly correlated. Can an outlier do the opposite and make a weak correlation strong? Yeah. Great question right there. And Douglas, let's make Douglas a mod. We're going out on a limb. We add mods here sometimes. So make a weak correlation strong. So if we go to core demo right here, let me go to view actual size. There we go. So watch this. We have a weak correlation. Here is a weak correlation right here. What is the value of correlation currently on the screen? Can anyone tell me the value of correlation currently on the screen? Conquer my Pearson like that. Boom. I'm making that a quote, Ali. What is the value of correlation on the screen as we have here, quote, number 304 from Ali? What is the value? That is without the red dot. Yeah, so that is without the red dot. It'd be that. Here, I'll undo it. There it is right there, Ali. So that is correct. I usually look over here because that's with all the dots. So you are correct. Without the red dot, it was this. Now watch this. I add in one dot. This is a weak correlation, right? So this is a weak correlation. Correlation is R. Correlation is R. And then the other time I did have it was 0.06 or negative 0.06 previously. It's very weak, right? But watch this. Now putting a point over here, can you guess what the correlation will be if I put 1 point over here? This is a weak correlation, little weak negative correlation. Now I put 1 point over here, and what will the correlation be? Just take a guess. 1 point, one outlier to this weak correlation. 1 point, super strong positive, boom, 0.96 with 1 point. 1 point. So to Douglas's question, can an outlier make a weak correlation strong? What would you say to that when it comes to outliers making a weak correlation strong? Can an outlier make a weak correlation strong? What do you say to that? And Douglas, great job working these right here, and ask every question you got. What can outliers do to correlation? We need to grab that thing. What can outliers do to correlation? Anything is possible. Anything is possible. So outliers can do anything to correlation. What do we got? Let's do another one.
Another one.
What questions should we do? Can make it strong, can make it weak, can make it positive, can make it negative. You name it, outliers can do it to correlation. Correlation, not to the median and IQR. Drop some more questions. You give the questions, we do the questions. Drop any questions you got. Let us know. We're just working away right here. Hopping down here. I think there was I saw someone, let me see, 201 says... I'll be reviewing in class tomorrow for the test. There we go. A study compared the effectiveness of several antidepressants. Cool. My keyboard's trash. I love my keyboard. I'm very happy with this keyboard. It's a purple glowy keyboard. I can change the color of it. So maybe I should make it UT orange. I like the purple. It's easy on the eyes. But this is I gotta figure out who made this. I don't know. I really like it. It's my second mechanical keyboard. Grib. A study compared. Green. Make it glow green. Here, we'll do it really quick. Where is it? It's Razer. I think that's who made my keyboard. Razer Synapse. 2 seconds. I'm gonna change it to green. It's very important we make the keyboard green. Lighting, here we go. There we go, color. Woo! Oh, see, now it's getting green screened. Now the keyboard is getting green screened. See, I can't make it green or it gets green screened. So, I think it's like a $80 keyboard. Where's my original color? Where's my purple at? Some light purple. Okay. There we go. You can do advanced things, which you can make it like glow multiple colors. Okay, I'm going to stop having fun. I'm going to get serious. Yeah, it's a really nice keyboard. May have purposeful with that color chase. A study compared here. We'll grab this question right here. I just like nice mechanical keyboards. Like I can type sometimes around 100 words per minute. And so a good mechanical keyboard is really nice. I'm getting the question loaded up right here as we chill. Chill music while we chill. I feel like this one right here. We're getting the question loaded up. Drop more questions in the chat. We have a study compared the effectiveness of several antidepressants. Listening to a little chill music. I was thinking about it. If anyone... Oh, here it is. We found it. Adult Swim used to play some really chill beats, like some underground like hip-hop and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I'd love to play that. Like some MF Doom and stuff like that. But I'm like, probably get hit with copyright claims left and right. Because this is free music I can play, but I play real music, I get copyright claimed. Can't play real music. Find some underground artists who would be like, yeah, play my music, and then just give me shout-outs. Because, I mean, that's how sometimes people grow in popularity. We don't want to take things from people, we want to support people. Okay, here we go with the questions. A study compared the effectiveness of several antidepressants. My gosh. By examining, well, just look at the data. What do you think? So we're looking at the placebo improvement and the drug improvement. For the most part, what do you think about this? SoundCloud the source? Nice. What do you think about this? Like, looking at this right here, what do you think? Positive, linear, moderately. It's actually pretty strong, I would say. I think they're going for linear. It's mostly linear. It's mostly linear, I would say. Nothing's perfect, but this is pretty darn good for when it comes to no major outliers. Yeah, there's just a little bit more of a spread right there in the data. But yeah, if you look at this, and I always like to draw around it. I've always been trained to draw my data this is what Dr. Seaver did. Shouts to Dr. Seaver right there. He would always say, you know, you need to print out your data and you need to draw on it. So we'd always go right here and we'd draw around it to give an estimate of the correlation. R is probably something like 0.9, just a guess, because it's very strong. The strength is going to be the tightness around the form, and this does look to have a mostly linear form, mostly linear. There's a slight bend at the middle maybe, but mostly linear and very strong positive linear relationship. This is where we talk about the strength, direction, form, and unusual features. So very good right here to understand that. Is it appropriate? Oh, I would say so. Oh, because wait, are they doing placebo improvement? Okay, let's double check. QQ straight enough, no outliers. I think this one might have a trick in it. Each of these experiments compared the active drug with a placebo, an inert pill. Placebo is just a sugar pill. In each experiment, some patients treated with placebo had improved a phenomenon known as a phenomenon called the placebo effect. Patients' depression levels were evaluated on the Hamilton Depression Rating Scale, where larger numbers indicated greater improvement. The Hamilton scale is widely accepted. The scale to the right compares improvement levels for the antidepressants placebos for several experiments. Seems applicable. Yeah, it's linear. So they're literally getting over here. QQ, straight enough, no outliers. So they're, how would you suggest, do each question as much as you can, Ansley? Good question right there. Do each question as much as you can. And if you get stuck, move on to the next one. You get stuck, move on to the next one. Just keep thinking like,
another one.
Just keep going to the next question whenever you get stuck and you're like, I can't do any more work on this one. Go to the next one. If the section gets too hard, go to the next section. Good question, Ansley, right there. So is this QQ straight enough? No outliers? I would say yes, it is. Better not be tricking right there. Let's select all the answers. It's weird. It's multi-select. So right here it says the correlation is this. Yeah, look, good guess right there, right? I said 0.9. Yeah, it's about 0.9. Explain what the researchers have learned from these experiments. So they're seeing that placebo improvement is correlated with drug improvement. So they're actually getting into the interpretation of it. So the correlation being 0.851. Experiments that showed a greater mean improvement among patients who took the... Experiments that showed a greater mean improvement among patients who took the antidepressants also showed a greater placebo improvement. That is a what relationship? They're getting at a what relationship right here. They're getting at a what relationship? They're getting at a what relationship right there? A positive, yep. So they're talking about a positive relationship. Yep, there we go. We got it. Pretty good question. A little short, very wordy. to just know that there's a positive, somewhat strong linear association, checking the conditions. So the first question here is just making sure you know that we do correlation on linear relationships, two quantitative variables, straight enough. There shouldn't be any extreme outliers. Once again, on the test, if we're going to throw a big outlier at you, we're usually going to put something way down here, which would destroy would be big outliers. So if you're looking at correlation, two quantitative variables, straight enough relationship, no extreme outliers. And the last question right here, just basically getting at there's a positive relationship between the two, that generally when there's a placebo improvement in the study, we generally see a drug improvement too. So kind of interesting. Placebo improvement is highly correlated with drug improvement. What other questions are there? Drop them in the chat. Someone's watching this later tonight and being like, where's my question? Always look for outliers, y'all. They're tricky. Gotta watch out for those outliers. Little tricksters right there, you little trickster. Outliers are like Puck, trying to mess with us on our midnight summer's dream right there. Don't be the outlier. What else? The World Happiness Report. Get a little Shakespeare in here. See Midnight Summer's Dream? I think, right? Had to read that in high school. Shouts to high school teachers. I'm so glad I teach college. College is like the perfect people to teach. Because, I don't know, like, rarely have I been disrespected. Like, no math, just words for that one. Ooh. Every once in a while, it's rare that a student's been mean to me. But like early on in my career, someone's like, you don't know who's president in like 1950, and I was like, I don't know that kind of stuff. Is that gray in my hair? Gray? I thought it sounded like Shakespeare. It does, right? Let's hop over to the main screen. Brian's getting gray in his hair. Okay, here we are on the World Happiness Report question. And we got some data. Ooh. Okay, so this is called a what? What is this called right here? What is this thing called? What is this? We don't just get stats and go, oh, thank you. I like that, Amanda. Yeah, of course. I want people to leave here happy. Because, like, this is just a class. We're just here to learn. Bro, students mean Brian. It's rare. It's happened every once in a while. Oh, good guess, Shelby. Let's throw 1,000 points. Good guesses. We don't really. It might be it's like a matrix. Good answers. This is called actually Douglas. We got to throw a little extra 1,000 points. Douglas is right. This is a matrix. It's a correlation matrix. So this is called a correlation matrix right here. They can get pretty busy pretty quick. And to talk specifically to the test, because we're always doing those teaching to the test moments. When you get a correlation matrix, you oftentimes need to look at things like, let's go to correlation matrix right here and let's ask some like test relevant questions, because we're approaching the test. So right here, columns. Okay, let's make it much easier to look at than that. Let's go to sure. No, that's too small. We got to go bigger. Okay, here we go. What two variables have the strongest, ignore those one, exactly. What two variables have the strongest correlation? Shelby, great job right there, already knowing how to read this a little bit right here. What two variables have the strongest correlations? What two variables have the strongest correlations right here? What two variables have the strongest correlation? Great job, Shelby, already seeing this right here. I think that is the strongest, and that would be between weight and desired weight. Does everyone see that? The relationship of weight and desired weight. It's also over here because this is just X, Y, and YX. That's why when we say something like, it doesn't matter which way you do the correlation between Y and X or X and Y, it's going to be the same correlation. So this is just depending if you call this the X or the Y, and you call this the X or the Y, it's still the same correlation. Now, would it still be the strongest if it was negative this? If it was negative 0.0871, would it still be the strongest? Yeah, Shelby, it's really great. Like, this is used a lot of times in research, like very, very much used in research. It'd still be the strongest, because strongest means what when it comes to correlation? Strongest means it's closest to what or what. And it only really cares about the absolute value. Strongest means closest to, furthest from zero. Yep. 1 or positive 1, or negative 1 or positive 1. So the closer it is to absolute value 1, because strength is measured by how far it is away from 0. So what is the weakest correlation in this matrix? What is the weakest? Tell me the value of the weakest correlation. The weakest correlation is what? This is a correlation matrix. It's called correlation matrix right there. Core matrix. I think. Oh, great. I got to throw you points. I was wrong. Oh, wait. Is it that? Allie might be right there. I'm throwing 1,000 points again. I actually looked at it wrong. I looked at it too quickly. It looks like that is the answer. Right here is the answer. And it's the answer because it's the value that is closest to what. Now, be careful. Always be double checking. And that is the answer is closest to what? Yeah, there it is, right? And make sure to throw the negative too. That is the value that's closest to what? Just like to find weakest, always find the one that's closest to what? So tricky, right? 0, exactly. And great job, everyone, reviewing. Remember, swing by office hours anytime. I know test is approaching. So glad to have everyone here. But just remember, swing by office hours anytime. Drop in, ask the questions. Let's see if we can use this sort of knowledge to help us out right here. Oh my gosh, such a crazy. Is log GDP per capita more strongly associated with happiness or life expectancy? Log GDP per capita, happiness or life expectancy? There's log GDP per capita with happiness. Log GDP. Okay, which of these is it more associated with? Is it more associated with happiness or life expectancy? Health, life expectancy. Just the value. Health, life expectancy, log GDP per capita. Right there. Oof, just crazy matrix. Okay, so it's this one right here, right? Oh, wait. So wait, this is the thing. I've done this one before. Without scatter plots, it's uncertain if the relationships are linear. We did a question just earlier which had a nonlinear relationship. So we don't know if they are linear without the scatter plots. That is true. So without scatter plots, it's uncertain if the relationship is linear. We did a question just earlier where, yes, I want to leave it. I'm trying to find the one we just did right here. This had a correlation of negative 0.86 and is nonlinear. So without the scatter plot, we do not know the relationship here is linear. So without the scatter plots, it's uncertain if it's linear. The log GDP per capita is more strongly associated with health life expectancy. Let's double check. And health life expectancy is here. Yeah, no, this is good right here. Oof, that correlation. Which one right there? What should be the quote? Yeah, oof, that crazy quote. Get out of here in a moment. Does this report provide evidence that improved healthcare, hence resulting in higher life expectancy, would result in greater happiness? See, the way they say this, I don't even like the way this is read. It does provide evidence, but then they use prove down here, which is a bad word. Yes, because high enough to conclude causation. No. You see, causation is just bad words. It does this. I don't like the way this is phrased because it does provide evidence, but it doesn't provide proof or show causation. Does that make sense? So whoever wrote this, between C and D on this one. So let's look at this. No, because the correlation is not high enough. Can the correlation ever show causation? Don't click submit on this. Can correlation ever show causation? And Allie gets it right there. Causation is a bad word. No, it doesn't matter. Let me ask you this. You're right here. You ready? If I draw 2 points, what is the correlation between these 2 points? Like if I look at donuts you ate. So these are donuts you ate. And this person ate 0 donuts, and this person ate 1 donut. This person made a 50 on the test. This person made a 90. What's the correlation? The correlation here is 1. And you say, oh my gosh, there is a perfect correlation between your test grade and the donuts you eat. Does that make sense? So now we have a perfect correlation between the amount of donuts you eat and your test grade. That's the way data works. But this would actually not be statistically significant because correlation is not statistically significant only at 2 points. There's no causation. Yeah, you can't say causation. Correlation doesn't show causation. Experiments can show causation or give good reason to believe when you isolate variables, and they haven't done that here. So the only way in statistics or in research to figure out if causation is happening is to do random assignment and control with a variable being manipulated in the study. It's not going on right here. Causation is a bad word. My new life mantra. So it is C. Boom. Let's do it. As long as we didn't get the first one wrong. 100. We're on a roll today. Got all that coffee in the system. What other questions should we do? Name those questions. Let's do it. Period. It's C. We don't like to say causation here. Don't say things are caused. Never causation. Bad words. Bad words. What question should we do next? Yeah, what do you want to do a normal curve example question? Those are great. Like come up with a fake test question, normal curve question. Yeah. Let's do one of those. Okay. Use the empirical rule. Suppose you were to collect data for each of the variables. We'll do that one next. Shelby, you got it. And so I got that one marked here next. Stat 201, chopped all 6 wheels. There we go. And then next, or we're doing the normal model, 4620, stat 201, chapter 5, test review. All right, let's go do it. No math, just words. You bet in Hurricane Katrina after this. You got it, Jackson. So use the empirical rule. 68, 95, 99.7. They don't all equals each other. 68, 95, 99.7 to solve the following problem. You're a D. Oh my God. I don't know how to breathe. Can't do it. I've only been doing it for 40 years. Your teacher tells you that test grades were normally distributed with a mean of 80 and a standard deviation of 6. What percent of students would you expect to score between a 68 and 86? Okay, tougher question. Okay, so if you see something like this, what's the first thing you're going to do? I'm trying to think through it. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, I think I got the answer. Starts with an 8. What's the first thing you would do right here? Oh, yeah, we'll check them out later, Jackson. You got it. What is the first thing you would do? Well, careful. You might be on the right track, Allie. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get something like this? What's the first thing you're going to do? Draw it out. Yep. No worries, Allie. Let's throw some more points in the chat. Just being here, trying. That's what we got to do first. Just we be here, we try, we practice, and then we draw it out. So we're going to draw this out, and we need to put the mean at the center. And the mean is 80. And then the standard deviations is the units we go up. So you want to go up these units, down these units. And then also I like to put below this the what. After I write my numbers, so that's the amount of space we're going up each time we do this. What do I put below this also? The z-scores, Shelby, you know what we're going to do right here. So we are doing this with the empirical rule. Great practice on the empirical rule questions. Now, if you notice, I chose these numbers for a reason. Good, I did pick the correct numbers. There we go. I think that's right. Good. Okay. So now the z-scores below this are 0, 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. And then we want between 68 and 86. Any guesses? I don't want to solve it yet. Ooh, great job, Allie, right there. That's Allie, you got it. Yes. Yeah. Let's throw 1,000 points. Yep. This is, and yeah, so you were on track when you got 68. 1,000 points, Allie. Great work solving this question. Just really good practice on empirical rule. You get something like this, use the empirical rule, draw it out, draw your picture, solve it. You got it. So Allie's doing multiple different solves right here, making sure you get the right answer. We are looking for the area between here and here, the curve. It shouldn't, I went too far over there. Oh, it's just at that mark. Very particular about my normal curves. There we go. That's better. That's better. I like that. It's more better, more best grammar. So we're looking for this area right here. Now, we should instantaneously know that this is going to be a bigger area. It's a lot of the data, and there's a lot of ways to break down this curve. One of your first things you should know, and Ali figured this out right here, is that this area has to be more than what? Like the area inside of the yellow with, I'm giving a hint by drawing this, has to be more than what? The area inside of the yellow has to be more than what? Has to be more than what? By the arrows I've drawn, it has to be more than what? Well, maybe 50. That probably true. 68, I'd go with the 68 right here because 68% is between here and here. So it has to be more than 68. So if we know the answer to this, which you might have memorized, which the answer to this is 13.5, and that's how Ali did the solve right there. That's how you can get the answer of many times we've written this out, but that's, I might not do that solve right there. If you know that that's 13.5, boom, you have the answer Ali found right there of 81.5. There's another alternative way to solve it right here. And I might do it this way. This is, if I don't know how to get that 13.5, I might ask, what is that red arrow worth over there? What is that red arrow worth? And great job, Shelby, and everyone practicing along here. Shelby, I'm going to throw 8,000 points. Great job practicing along right here. What are those red arrows worth? Just the red arrows I've drawn on the screen. What are those red arrows worth? So don't worry about anything other than the red arrows right now. 16%, right? Does that make sense? Because if 68 is inside, 32 is outside, half of those is 16. So 16% here, 16% here. Now, and when you add up, it's going to be 100% if you go across the curve going from here across this way. But we're not going to worry so much about the other arrow over here. That's not as important. We're just going to focus on that. Now, I want you to think about the following. How much is this second red arrow worth? How much is that second red arrow worth? Well, between here and here is 95%. So how much is that second red arrow worth? How much is that second red arrow worth? The new one I drew over here, how much is this worth? Area-wise, like underneath it is how much area right now? How much area is underneath that second red arrow I just drew? If 95, and great job, Ali, right there, solving it, 95, right? So with this being, or excuse me, 2.5, great job, Ali, right there, 95 in the center, 2.5 on either side. So take a look right here. This is the area you don't want. So this is the excluded area. How much excluded area is there? Does anybody know if correlation means strength of linear relationship? Strength of only linear. It's only linear. Great job, Shelby, right there. Only linear. Only linear. Great job, Ali and Shelby teaming up right there. Gotta throw 1,000 points again. Great teamwork. So we got, where's Blake and Ethan at? They're missing out on all these points. Shelby and Ali going to catch up on the point leaderboard. So I don't know if we can do top. Oh, no, actually, I think it will. I thought he would say the top leaders. He doesn't, apparently. Meebot's not answering that. I thought he would say top leaderboard. So with this, right, I love it. I love it. I've actually had students form clubs and stuff from being in Stats 1 online. There you go. Shout outs to all the people right there. Just, you know, go meet up at Starbucks or whatever. Your students meet up, say hey, be like, let's go run down to Starbucks, say hey, and that's all. Man, that just makes my day. Colin, who's here. Yeah, oh, thank you, Amanda, right there. Yeah, I'll throw more points, just making everyone's day. It's, you know, I had 2 students get married who met because of me. I wonder if I should say who they are. But the one student changed her major to business analytics. Not that people need to change their major, but she changed her major to business analytics and then met. Here, wait, here, Shelby. I'm gonna remove that just because these are public. Don't worry, like just so if you want to remove it, like as long as you're okay with, because you know it's public video. So if you can actually hit remove on the message, like in a moment if you want. But yeah, so I'll let you choose that right there. But I had 2 students. One student changed her major. And she, awesome. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, no. It's just, I just always want students to know that. And so like, I always encourage people to meet up, and I always want students to stay safe too, because like, you know, it's so funny. I'll tell one quick story right here. So the answer to this would be 100 minus those areas, or you could add up the center areas. Yeah, exactly. It's just UT email. Yeah. When I was like 14 or 15, I played an online game called The Realm. So imagine 14-year-old Brian playing an online video game. And this is back in the 90s. And then there were these people online who were like, hey, we're going to be at the mall near where you're at. And so I was like, hey, mom, hey, dad, can I go to the mall and meet some people from this online video game? And they were like, no. They seem nice. They seem nice. Never a good idea for a 14-year-old to go to the mall and meet strangers online who are in their like 30s or 40s. I was like at the time 6'3" and stuff. Like I was started high school, so I was running cross country back then. But still, yeah, don't do that. I mean, like I don't know. It's always like the internet was just I loved webkins. Yeah, so but I also know that there's a lot of positive and negative out there in the world. And we're here to promote that positivity. So like knowing that 2 of my students met because of me. Well, the one guy wasn't my student. She was my student. And she then changed her major, went into the master's program, met her husband, and married. And they invited me to their wedding. It happened at the start of COVID and stuff. But that just meant a lot to me that they're happily married. Like they're both awesome. And I remember the first time figuring out that they were dating. I just like, I know, right? This is one of Brian's happy moments right here. Like I went, they were working in a cubicle and I went over to see them and I was like, hey, what's up guys? And they were just kind of looking at each other and I was like, well, I'll leave. Nothing was going on or anything, but I was just like, I could tell. And then I was like, I didn't, you don't want to ask people like, are you dating? That's a little personal. My boyfriend does mechanical engineering. I would never change my major. Like, yeah, exactly. Well, she didn't change her major because of it. It just so happened that she was in a totally different major, and then she took business analytics and really liked it. And then some people like it. I've had people change into it. I've had people change out of it. Yeah, it was fate. She changed into the major, and then while in the master's program, met him. Like they were just in the master's program together, and they were just like, I like you, you like me, and they just started dating. And I think we just like, I saw them eating lunch one day. I think that's when it was. Like I saw them eating lunch, and I was like, and they're like, yeah, we're dating. I was like, okay, because I'd known them both for a long time. So known them both for like 4 or 5 years at that point, because they were finishing the master's program at that point. And I was just like, I just kind of, I don't know. But I'm really, and they're just both such amazing people. Like I'm just so, I wish I'd saw them when I was in Knoxville. We have mutual friends and stuff, like from people in the department and stuff. And I'm just really proud of them. I mean, they've graduated like 3 years from now. Do they have a data analytics brain child? They might. I don't think they have, well, I don't think they have kids yet, but yeah, they could. I mean, and I remember like she told me when she got into the master's program, her dad gave her like this just amazing, like got her all these flowers and stuff. And not everyone's as lucky to have like supporting and loving family who like just like cheers them on through everything they do. And that just means a lot to me when people have that sort of support, because it's tough out there. It's tough figuring out what you want to do in life. And then sometimes people will come in there and critique what you want to do and be like, oh, you want to do this? You want to do this? People in my life have had people critique their choices and be like, oh, you want to do this? Maybe you should do this instead. And it's like, I don't want to do that. Oh, thank you, Amanda. Yeah. No, I just think you should. It's important to have passion in life, like passion for what you do. You should find something that excites you. And then if someone says like, oh, but you'll make more money doing this, which I've been told before, or people in my life have been told, but if you do this, you'll make more money. Money matters, but it matters a lot less than you think. Because I'll tell you this much, the hardest times in my life have been through like the pandemic, when you can have all this money. You can have a ton of money, but as The Rock says,
It doesn't matter.
I don't think that helps right there. It doesn't add to the mood. Money doesn't matter anything if you don't have people to like share experiences with. What am I interrupting? Oh, we're just chilling, Emma. Drop those questions in the chat. Oh, we got to do another one right here. Didn't Jackson ask some more questions as we're getting all sentimental right here? Money doesn't matter if you don't have people in your life to share experiences with. Because it's just not. In business terms, I'll increase your budget constraint, but decrease your utility. Oh, we're about to do some more 201. Jackson had a question right here. Oh, we have the suppose you were collecting data, and then Jackson had one chapter 6 quiz on the Katrina, I think. Hurricane Katrina. Let's do the suppose you're collecting data. Chapter 6 quiz. And we're just chilling. We've done a lot today. Suppose you're collecting data. We got the Hurricane Katrina one here. I'm going to move the Hurricane Katrina, then we'll just suppose you're collecting data. Hurricane Katrina one's a quick one. It's a quick question. We took a little break and relaxed for a moment. Here we go. Hurricane Katrina question. Let's do it. Here we go. Suppose you collect data. You got it next, Shelby. You got it. This one's really quick, so we're just going to knock this one out of the ballpark really quick because they're going to add 120 miles to every hurricane. But correlations based on what again? Correlations based on what? It's like if everybody grows 3 inches, would that change the relationship of height and weight? It's based on z-scores, right? So if you add a constant, it would not change the correlation between these variables. Good to see you, Chris. So with this right here, it's not going to change anything about the correlation. The correlation would not change in sign, nor would it change in magnitude, because the z-scores that the correlation is based on would not change. There we go. Boom. Question done. So adding constants, the note right here to have is adding constants to one value would not change z-scores, because it's like if everyone gets +3 on their test, if you get +3 on your test and everyone gets +3, listening to my car, nice. Thank you, Chris, right there. If you get +3 on your test and everyone gets +3 and you were at the mean, what would your score be theoretically? Like you'd still be the what? If everyone gets +3 on your test and you were the mean previously, in economics, so we'll down here next. If everyone gets +3 on their test and you were the mean before the curve, what would you be after the curve? If everyone gets +3 on their test and you were the mean before the curve, what would you be after the curve? If everyone gets +3 on their test and you were the mean before the curve, what would you be after the curve? If everyone gets +3 on their test, and we're looking for, suppose you were to collect data. If everyone were to get +3, you'd still be the mean, right? So it wouldn't change anything. It'd be the same. Suppose you were to collect data. Suppose you were to collect data. Suppose for once in your life you collect data. Do that one thing, you collect data. Suppose. There's so many questions. We've done a lot of these today. The federal office, you got it, Douglas. We'll do that and I'll put it on the list. We got enough time here. We got 30 more minutes. Where's suppose you were to collect data? We'll try and knock some out pretty quickly here. Oh my gosh. Really? If you see your number. So, wow, it's the first. Oh, we've done this one. It's one of my lesser favorite questions. We'll do it a little bit quickly here. I think it's a little bit ridiculous in some ways, like the way it asks some of these. So thank you for the people who helped me do this the last time. We'll put the note in here of where it is. Not one of my favorite questions, the way it asked this. Oh, no. Let's do it. Let's do it, Shelby. Let's knock it out. It won't take too long. This is a quicker one. Just not a big fan of this new question right here, the way it asks it. I'll tell you my differences with it, and I wouldn't love this as a test question. When you do correlation, one variable is assigned. No, we'll do it really quick. Watch this. When you do correlation, one variable is your this, and your other variable is your this. When you do correlation, one variable is your this, and one variable is your this. Like you have a variable that is your this variable and your this variable, like in the graphical sense. So in the graphical sense, correlation is the quantitative relationship between a what and a what. Like we can define the variables mathematically to be called a this variable x, and the other variable would be called a what. So we have like the relationship between these two variables. This is a correlation matrix over here. So correlation is the relationship between two variables where one is the x, explanatory variable, and one is the y. We call that response sometime, or why is this happening? The y is what you're interested in. Like, why is this happening? That is the y variable of interest. The x is the explanatory, which explains why. So now when you look at these questions, it's asking which of these should be the x and the y. We're looking at the weight of an apple in grams versus the weight in ounces. It doesn't really matter. You flip-flop them. You explain the gram weight with the ounces, the ounces weight with the grams. It doesn't really matter. And what does it mean? If an apple weighs more ounces, it would weigh more grams. This is perfect positive linear, because as weight goes up in one measure, weight would go up in another measure. It's perfect linear. So it really doesn't matter which way we do these, and it's going to be a perfect positive linear relationship with extremely high, strong correlation, because it's measurements of weight. If one measurement of weight goes up, the other measurement of weight goes up. This one's actually mathematically based. We've got here ice cream sales and air conditioner sales. So this is, I misread this last time. I thought it was air conditioning usage. It's sales. So either one of these from the business aspect could be the one we're trying to understand. So do we work for an air conditioning company trying to sell air conditioning? Do we work for an ice cream company trying to sell ice cream? Well, either one of these could be the Y variable of interest. Could be the explanatory variable. Maybe air conditioning explains ice cream sales, or maybe ice cream sales explains people using air conditioning. Either one doesn't matter. Now, when more air conditioning is used, there's going to be more ice cream sales. When more ice cream is sold, there's going to be more air conditioning. They're both based on temperature. So the scatter plot would show a positive, strong linear relationship probably, and these say negative. No, or no direction. That just means like a blob. No, it's going to have a relationship. College freshman shoe size and grade point average. Now, this one right here, we got to be careful because we probably want to predict grade point average. This is the only one I'm a little fearful on right here because I would think shoe size, is it either or? Because I'm trying to remember, is that the last one where it finally gives you, I think this one, this is a good reason we're doing it right here, because this one I'm a little bit afraid on. It's wacky. This is ridiculous. I guess they could say we're working for, yeah, so we'll see. No, it's going to be one. So we could assign either one because shoe size is like, it's not doing like 12 male. It's doing like just centimeters of shoe size. So they're both quantitative. I thought, because you see, this is the only one where I'm just like, this is a little bit ridiculous on this question. That's why I'm glad we're doing it. Is it either? It is C. Emma's confirming it's C, that we'd want to predict GPA. It just makes sense that GPA is what you want to understand. So that's where I was like, where I'll start second guessing myself. You watch The Old Officers, nice job right there. We want to predict GPA. GPA is the variable of interest. Now, do you think there is a relationship between shoe size and GPA? This is a decent question here now. Do you think there's a relationship between shoe size and GPA? Like, do you think if someone has a bigger shoe size, GPA would have a relationship? Like, GPA would go up as shoe size goes up, or GPA would go down, or there'd be a nonlinear relation? No, there's nothing going on right here. No, it's just probably randomness. The last one is the number of miles you've driven and the gas remaining in your tank. Would you want to predict how much gas is in your tank, or would you want to predict how many miles you've driven? Which of these? Yeah, I know, right? It's a long question. Would you want to predict how many miles are in your tank? I mean, how much gas is in your tank? Or would you want to predict the miles you've driven? Which of those sounds more important to the consumer? How much gas? Like, think about, you're looking at your car. Is your car trying to predict how many miles you've driven, or is your car trying to predict for you how many miles you have left? Gas in the tank. So like, my car tells me you can drive this much more. It's making a prediction. Like, I don't want to go till it says 0 because it might be right. I don't know. I get a little bit afraid when it gets down to like 10 or 12. When it gets towards single digits, I don't think I've ever gone that low because I'm like, my car has it has a range? That's a confidence interval right there. It does. It says like between this and this much. So if that range starts to get where I'd say, yeah, that's good. That's a good car right there. Shelby, that's awesome. It doesn't? I don't know. So gallons of gas remaining. No. Number of miles driven with the explanatory variable explaining. It just calls that the range. Oh, I wish it gave a range because it's just making a prediction. What would you expect to see in the scatter plot? This one would be negative, as in the more miles you drive, the less gas, the more gas you use, the more miles you drive, the less gas. So it would be a strong negative, and we should get everything right. I don't think I went to. Oh, got it. Good. I was a little bit worried right there. Let's do the next question. Like, some of that is good theoretically. We have an economics instructor assigns, which might be towards here at the end. An economics instructor assigned. Oh, I thought I would have got it. And I think there was another one. An economic instructor assigns. Good stuff right here. An economic instructor assigns. We got time for like 2-ish more. We've done a lot today. Check out other parts of the video if you want, where we've done a lot of the questions right here. Good work, everybody. Good practice today. An economics instructor assigns. 109. 5 out of 3. Here we go. So we've got a class to investigate associated with gross domestic product, GDP, and each student examines a different factors such as life expectancy, literacy rates, other different variables for a few countries, and reports to the class. Apparently, some of the classmates do not understand statistics very well because several of their conclusions are incorrect. Explain the mistakes in the comments A and B. Okay. So my very low. Okay. So very low correlation should be correlation closer to what? Relatable. Oh, no worries, Allie. Good to have you back. Very low correlation should be closer to what? Very low correlation should be closer to what? Like, that's not a low correlation. Low correlation should be closer to what? Don't worry about their answers. Low correlation should be closer to what? If someone says I have low correlation, that should be closer to what? I wouldn't say that's low correlation. This is a good question so far. 0. So that's not close to 0. It's a pretty strong negative correlation. So assuming that the relationship is linear, because we only do correlation for linear relationships. So assuming that it's linear, a correlation of this shows a strong negative. That is a strong negative. Stronger is closer to 1. Moderate is closer to 0.5. And this is in terms of absolute value. And weaker is closer to 0. So the sign there just shows the direction, which is negative. So that is a moderate, strong. It's definitely not weak. Weak is closer to 0. So that right there. Explain the mistake in the statement. The correlation was, there was a correlation of 0.44. Okay, what's the problem with continent? What is the first condition of correlation, which shows the problem with continent? Do not worry about their answers. Just think through. They're saying GDP and continent. So what is the first condition of correlation, which is going to be the issue here on this? This is a great question, going over the conditions of correlation or understanding correlation. QQ. So continent is categorical. So this is not two quantitative variables right here. So correlation is not going to apply. Continent is it's not quantitative. Continent is categorical. Correlation does not apply. Good. That's a great question. I rate the questions on how good it is in understanding. So it has to be two quantitative variables. So it's not quantitative. It's not two quantitative variables. So you can't talk about the correlation. There could be an association. Association is the general word for when two variables are related. So maybe there's a relationship to the continent the country's on and its GDP. We wouldn't call that a correlation, though. Correlation is only between two quantitative variables. Then we have the next one right here. The whole question Emma's saying. Which one is it, Emma? Oh, Douglas has the federal housing enterprise. Let's go. Thank you, Douglas. The federal, and you got these new questions. Stat 201, Chapter 6, quiz. The Office of Federal Housing. Boom. Okay, so what do you first notice about this? Ooh, this is an interesting one. Let me go grab the timestamp on this. What do you first notice? We can try to do 2 more, I think. What do you notice immediately about this? This one's a bit weird. What do you notice? If we assume a research investigation between two variables, let's look at that. I'll grab that one here next, shall we? It is positive, definitely positive. This one's a bit weird, and I'm wondering where they're going to go with this because I'm noticing some oddities to it. It gets weaker as it goes along. So the strength of this is not consistent. I don't know if they're going to go in that direction so far. It's getting weaker. Does that make sense? Because if you think of the linear form, it is linear. It's getting weaker as it goes along because it's getting more spread out. So maybe they're going to go in that direction. We call that heteroskedasticity, or in chapter 7, the plot thickening, which we don't like. I don't know if they're going to go in that direction, but let's see what they say. Okay, describe the relationship between housing costs and median family income by size. It's definitely positive, and it's linear. I'm thrown off by the MRI one. We can try that one here in a moment. Put the start of the question, Emma. If I haven't grabbed it, I'll grab it here. We'll get it knocked out. We got just a little bit of time left here, so we'll get that knocked out. This is definitely positive, so that eliminates the negative. It is linear. Linear just means a line goes through it. So a line does go through that data. So that eliminates not linear and no association not there. You might wonder if it's moderate. It's about moderate, I'd say. And the next one says, if both variables were standardized, okay, so what would happen to both? What would happen to the correlation if both variables are standardized? This is something we've practiced a lot today. We should know pretty quickly for any question that asks us if both variables are standardized, i.e. turn to z-scores, which already happens anyways when we do correlation. What would happen to the correlation? So if both variables were standardized or measured a different way, what would happen to correlation? If we added 20 to each one of them, if we multiplied them by 100, it stays the same. Exactly. So to all questions that say multiply it by 100, add 50 to it, turn it to z-scores, i.e. standardized, the correlation of 0.65 would still be the correlation of 0.65 because they're already standardized anyways. So for the next one, good job, Sarah, right there. Excellent work. If median family income had been measured in thousands of dollars, what would happen to correlation? If median family income had been measured in thousands of dollars instead, what would happen to the correlation? We were just literally doing this. If it was measured in thousands of dollars, what would happen to the correlation? If we measured median family income in thousands of dollars, like we change that to 30, 45, 60 up there, it would stay the same. The correlation would have the same sign and the magnitude would not change. So it's still going to be the same positive correlation with the same value. Suppose Washington, D.C. has a household income of 548 and 455. If this region were to be included, how would this affect the correlation? So 548 and 45. So they're going up here. 45 is here, and 548 is over here. What is that going to do to the correlation? Putting a point over here is going to do what to correlation? Putting a point over there, a new point over there is going to do what to the original correlation? Putting a point over there is going to do what to the correlation? It's going to weaken it. And we can see this over here visually if we use the core demo again. So let's just quickly run through the core demo. Boop. And there we go, core demo. If you have a scatter of points that is something like this right here, this has a correlation of 0.92. A point in the center of it, like along the line, would make it stronger. You see that went to 0.93. A point further away from the scatter is going to make it weaker. That went to 0.84. 0.92 to 0.86 right there. The further you are away, the weaker it's going to get. The closer you are to the linear relationship, the stronger it gets. So a point over here is going to make it stronger because it's along the linear relationship these points have, where when you go outside the linear relationship, it gets weaker. So to our question, we're putting a point over here, which is far away from the linear relationship. I wish they'd put it way up there. That'd be a little bit more obvious, but the correlation would have the same sign. It's still going to be positive, but the point over here would decrease the magnitude, i.e. make it weaker. Do these data provide proof? Immediately, what do you say to that? Do these data provide proof? What do you immediately say to that? What do you immediately say? Do these data provide proof? Immediately say what? No, we don't say prove right here. These data do not prove, since the value of correlation cannot prove any causation. I think we got it right. Woo, got a little bit scared, did the last one pretty quickly. Just popped out to me right there. Cannot prove any causation, no matter how high it is.
It doesn't matter.
Rock always knows. We got a few more right here. Emma, do we have your question listed? I have a researcher investigates the association. Emma, if you can drop that other question right here. A researcher invests in association. Oh, here we go. So Emma, drop that next question, and we have just enough time to do it. So 1:17:55, and then we got a lot of questions done today. Woo! Oh, here we go with this question. Then we'll do one more right here. Super short question. A researcher investigates the association between two variables, collected some data, and was surprised when he collected the correlation. He had expected to find a fairly strong association, yet the correlation was near zero. Discouraged, he didn't bother making a scatter plot. Explain to him how a scatter plot could reveal something about the association he didn't know. Okay, so if we look at this right here, they're probably getting at, I didn't even look at the answers. The correlation of a parabola is close to zero, and why? Why is the correlation of a parabola close to zero? Now, it could be outliers too. They might say that. So why is the correlation of a parabola, a study exam of brain size? Why is the correlation of a parabola close to zero? Why is the correlation of a parabola close to zero? Because the relationship is what? Why is the correlation of a parabola close to zero? It's not linear, exactly. So correlation is close to zero, but then also the other possible answer is there could be an outlier. So here's a very strong positive linear relationship, and then look at how it gets very weak when you add one outlier. So you could have one outlier destroying the relationship, making it close to zero. So although there is no strong positive association, there is scatter could show no. The scatter plot could reveal that there is a strong no. Although there is no strong linear relationship between the variables, the scatter plot could reveal a strong non-linear relationship. So that should be the answer right there. Kind of thought that's where I thought, but it could be outliers too. But remember, correlation only measures linear strength. So thinking of examples like parabolas would have correlation close to zero, because correlation is only a measure of linear strength right there. Let's get the last question knocked out right here. Thank you so much for like speed running questions right now. Those are really good questions, like just theoretically understanding and being able to draw some examples. A study examined brain sizes. We look at all those. We've done all those questions right there. Last question. Unless we can do another quick one. study. Look at that nonlinear relationship right there. Several scatter plots. Twins. A study examined brain sizes. Ooh, this one I know I've done this one many times. I know it's caught me off guard, so let's watch out. Because I think there's a little bit of a curveball in this one. Okay. So let's make sure we get it. Because I think I narrow it down to 2 a lot of times. Not going to trick me today. Not today, my Pearson. You ready? So when you look at this relationship right here, there is something positive here. This is how I was trained to draw around the relationship first. It is slightly going up. Not today, my Pearson. It's one of our quotes, early quote right there. It is slightly going up, so it's slightly positive. Let's look. There is a weak negative. No, it's not negative. So we can narrow down off of this one and this one. Okay. So now we're between all 3 of these answers right here. Fairly strong. I don't think that's fairly strong. Strength is the tightness of the relationship around the form, so it's not fairly strong. We've narrowed it down to these 2 answers. There is a moderately weak, positive, straight association. Maybe. There is a very weak or possibly no association. In truth, both of these are like, I don't love it, but it's going to be this one. They're not. Oh, it is the other one. Really? I've drawn this one out 1,000 times. I literally went in another office hours and drew it out. It is C. Great job, Shelby, right there. 1,000 points. Yeah, thank you for asking about this one. I actually literally took this and drew it on the core demo and drew it. And I think I found it has a correlation of like 0.25. It says straight, and maybe that's what they're getting at here is there's a bend through it. I've looked at a lot of stuff, and I'll tell you that much. That looks moderate, weak, positive. If you got that one wrong, just email me and say, hey, Brian, I got that one wrong. Like, if you did this one, it was like the one you missed, just let me know. Because really, narrowing it down to these 2 choices is where I would get. No, this has something. I've drawn it multiple semesters on core demo over here. Like, I've literally gone over here and taken the picture over here and redrew it and been like, boop, 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 boop. Like, one semester I like really sat down. So I should remember. It's like I know there's questions where I can second guess myself. You draw this little creature type thing, and the end of it is what's creating it. So if you look at this right here, we can put a little points on the outside. If you look at the similarities between my drawing, which is not perfect, does that kind of look like that over there? Like, look at my drawings. I did a really quick sketch of it. Oh, what did I just hit? I have no idea what I clicked. Up. There we go. Okay. Does that kind of look like it? Like you're literally, Brian is baffled. Does this graphic kind of look like this over here? Does it kind of look like it? I would say that is similar-esque, right? It looks like a little, you see the little animal right here. You see his hind legs right there. You see his front legs. You see his little head right there. If you look at this data right here and this data right here, I'd say they look pretty similar, and the correlation is 0.23. So my Pearson, whoever wrote that question, needs to look over it again because there is a somewhat moderate, weak correlation going on right here. Is there no relationship? Just perspective. So great job. Any other last questions? We got class coming up here in a moment. Once again, that's one of those ones. That is the only question I think we got wrong today. I think this is the only one. The only one. I know I teach the class, so I should get them all right, right? We all make mistakes. Don't worry. That's why you get multiple attempts. You all get mistakes. And that's why I do the work too, so you can see which ones. If we assume that the correlation for met, that's my last one. If we assume, let's try to knock it out real quick. You ready? If we assume, we got time. If we assume. How rude, my Pearson. How rude. Isn't that Full House? If we assume, oof. Okay, let's knock it out real quick. Not 100. Nice job, Shelby, right there. Let me know which ones you got wrong. If it's one of the ones that tricked us during office hours, you can get that right. It's a Star Wars quote. It's Star Wars? Wow, I'm not that big. I don't know Star Wars nearly well enough. Statua 1, Chopdall 6 quiz. Let's destroy this one. Okay, we're going to speed run this one because I teach in 8 minutes. Okay. No. Is this not it? If we assume that the conditions for correlation are met, which of the following are true? The correlation of 0.02 indicates a strong positive association. Oh, this is from Haas. That's what I thought. So no, 0.02 would not. That's a super weak. This is false. This would mean there may be no linear. That sounds right to me. So the correlation cannot measure the strength. No, it does. Correlation 0.02 is no. 0.02 means it's super weak. Standardizing the variables will make the correlation 0. No, standardizing does not change it. This is false. Standardizing the variables, no, will not switch the signs. Changing the units of both the variables will not affect the value of correlation. We've talked about that a lot today. Really good question right there. Adding an outlier can dramatically, boom. Outliers can do anything, so I think we're good on that. We should be good. Boom, we got it. We love it. We love it. We love it. So many things going on. Jar Jar Binks said it to the Phantom Menace. Oh, he did? I can't tell if people are messing with me or not right now. We knocked out a lot of questions today. With that, it's time to end off. Bye for now, everyone. Bye.